Welcome to the Marketing Mastermind, a podcast designed to elevate your entrepreneurial mindset and help you take your business to the next level through digital marketing. Join your host, agency owner Hillary Russell, as she interviews experts from around the world, dives into business success secrets, and gives tactical mindset training to help you elevate all areas of your life and business. Ready? Let's dive into another Marketing Mastermind episode.
Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Mastermind. As always, I'm so excited to share with you the guest today. But I have to be honest, I am particularly, maybe from a bit of a selfish place, really excited for this episode because Nathan, I haven't shared this with you, but I've actually been following your journey for probably 3 or 4 years or so. We've been friends on social media and just seeing, different posts that come through and things that you post about the businesses and things that you're starting. So I'm so excited about this episode because I feel like I've had kind of a back seat to watching these different companies and journeys that you've had over the last couple of years. So welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the Marketing Mastermind.
I appreciate it. And one thing that has to do with marketing to start, like whenever we start a company, my business partner, Connor, and I, we publicly start it. We kind of share the journey with everyone, success, failures, everything in between. And it's kind of fun to go back to old posts from like year one of Free Up, or just talk to people that maybe saw some update that they were able to apply to their business, and vice versa. I love seeing what other people are doing and trying to implement it in my business. And thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Cool. Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, and I apologize. So for our listeners, this is Nathan Hirsch, and we'll talk a little bit about your background, but to your exact point with that, I've got to say the content that you post and literally talking about every step of the business that you guys are, dealing with or going through on a day-to-day basis is so fun to follow. And I really love that. And that's very commendable. I think that for a lot of business owners, that's kind of a scary or vulnerable thing to, post different stages or steps of the business, because you're like, oh, well, what if it fails, or what if something happens? And, I'm sharing this to the public. So let's maybe start there. If you're okay with that, tell me what drives you to be so open and so, transparent with how you run your businesses.
Yeah. So to answer that, let's kind of back up. So I started being an entrepreneur when I was 20, drop shipping on Amazon, which is a whole nother story we can get into. But I did that for 6 or 7 years. And when you're selling on Amazon, you're kind of behind Amazon, right? Like no one really cares what your name is. You're not really doing any outside marketing. Even back then, there was no Amazon PPC or anything. So when we started Free Up, it was exciting for us. It was fun. It was our first opportunity to build our own website, our own brand, but we had to learn marketing from the ground up. We didn't know SEO. We didn't know going on podcasts. We didn't know building a partnership program or social media. So I was trying to figure out, like, how do I become more on social media? Like back then I was just using social media for personal stuff. And I didn't really know what to post. Like, what did I have to talk about? Like, yeah, at the time I was 24, 25, like who wants to hear a 24, 25-year-old? And then randomly I was like, you know what, I'm just going to post about whatever I'm working on for Free Up. And that whatever, every day I'm just going to make 2 posts and just update people what's going on. And it kind of started like that, and people like that. And we've just been doing that for all of our companies, whether it's Outsource School or EcomBalance. And I've kind of learned that what matters more than anything is the consistency. Not that quality isn't important and that you should post garbage, but it's almost less important than just consistently doing it. Like there's sometimes I post something and no one comments it, no one likes it, and I can always just delete it and no one even knows about it. And other times you post stuff and you're like, man, I don't know why people care about that or why that helps people, but it works. And it's more about that consistency than anything else.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah, great advice. I mean, right from the beginning of this conversation, I think that is such solid advice for anyone in any stage of their business is, who cares? Who cares? Just post the stuff, post it out there, because like you said, it's so fun to go back, even if it's just for yourself, to go back and see, oh yeah, this is what was happening a year or 2 years ago, and look at where we're at now. That's so cool.
And that's how you build a lot of like super fans too. Like there are people that were the first 100 clients of Free Up, or hopefully the first 100 clients of EcomBalance. And they not only feel like they're using your service and they're a client, but they feel like they're part of the journey and help you building. And another side of that is just loving feedback. Like, we're always asking our clients for feedback and actually implementing that feedback. So then a client will use us, give us feedback, see that we implemented the feedback, and get updates on us implementing the feedback. It kind of builds a big community.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit with your background. So you started Free Up in, was it 2015? Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so 2015, starting that out, starting it up with really the idea that you needed a virtual assistant. You needed some additional assistance with your business. Tell me a little bit of how the idea for Free Up came about.
Yeah, so we were running this Amazon business, and at the beginning, we thought we were going to take down Amazon and be the next e-commerce giant, and that didn't exactly plan out. But the whole thing, like, we were growing a pretty big business. We kind of saw writing on the wall that what we were doing wasn't going to work forever. Dropshipping became harder. There became more Amazon sellers and all of that. But we also had to figure out how to hire during this whole process. And I hired a lot of college kids that were very unreliable, drinking on the job, smoking on the job, oversleeping their shifts, whatever it was. But the one college kid that was reliable, Connor, became my business partner. So we kind of realized hiring college kids was not a great idea. It also didn't make sense to invest a lot of time into training them when they were just going to go do something else down the line. And hiring adults was not only expensive, but hard to do when you're like 21, 22 and know really nothing about the real world. So that kind of got us into the VA freelancer space. And we made a lot of mistakes. It took us years to build a really good hiring process, the process that we now teach today at Outsource School. But when we finally figured it out, it changed our business, but we still kind of ran into the same issue. We'd post a job on Upwork, go through 100 people, finally find someone. And it was just really time consuming. And we kept looking for a marketplace that we could just tell them what they want. They vet the people, give us that person. We work with them and they protect us if anything goes wrong. And when we couldn't find that, we said, hey, you know what? We're gonna build this ourselves. And that was kind of the beginning of Free Up. We took a lot of our VAs and freelancers from the Amazon business and leased them out, for lack of a better word, to other sellers. And we started Free Up with $5,000, a website, some pretty crummy software that did very little, and keeping track of everything on Google Sheets. And people would call me or text me or Skype me or email me the VAs and freelancers they wanted. And that's kind of how we got it off the ground.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. That's so insane. Well, and from one entrepreneur to another, that like, it makes me laugh because it's so relatable. I mean, at the beginning stages with a company, you're kind of like, I don't know what I don't know. And I'm just kind of putting the pieces together. It's kind of duct taped together at the beginning until you get a more solid process. And so that's so cool that you guys were able to create something huge, gigantic. I mean, so after Free Up, you ended up exiting Free Up, correct?
Correct.
And then Outsource School, is that part of, explain that a bit and the connection there, because I know that Outsource School is really teaching entrepreneurs and business owners how to delegate and how to go to that, through that process. And, I have my own opinions and the experience in coaching entrepreneurs. I've been able to see how needed that really is, because it's, there's a tendency as an entrepreneur to just do everything yourself, and you get bogged down and don't get success with that, right? So talk a little bit about that. How did Outsource School come about? And what does that look like now? Are you still involved with Outsource School?
Yeah, still run Outsource School. So Outsource School doesn't provide VAs. It essentially gives you our interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing process that you can plug into your business. But I mean, the real story is we spent the end of 2019, 6 months, the most stressful 6 months of my life, exiting Free Up. And that was absolutely life-changing. And we couldn't have sold it to better people and ended up working out really well. But we sold Free Up November of 2019. The original plan was to take a year off and travel the world. And I didn't think that I would see Connor for a whole year. And then the pandemic hit, and we were kind of in a weird spot where we had just sold our company. We weren't involved in the company. We didn't really have anything to do, and we couldn't really we couldn't travel or anything. We were stuck inside during a pandemic. And at the same time, all we had done for 4 years was Free Up. We didn't have any other like great business ideas. I mean, I wish I came up with EcomBalance and Accounts Balance immediately after selling Free Up, but it just didn't play out that way. And so we started getting people requesting us to teach them our hiring process. And a friend of mine, Nate McAllister, said, "Hey, you should really launch a course about hiring." And we kind of treated it like we do all of our businesses, just get the minimum viable product out there. We started working on this course in the middle of the pandemic. We launched it. If the first initial clients hated it, we would have just refunded them and moved on to something different. But people really liked it. And that blossomed into Outsource School, which is our yearly membership where people get not only our access to our course and stuff, but support along the way. And it's become a really nice passive income stream. The people in it, like I just did a live call for that community this morning, and the people in it love it. And it's made great changes to their business, but it also allowed to buy Connor and I more time to brainstorm a lot of bad ideas for the next year. And then finally come across EcomBalance and Accounts Balance.
Yeah. How cool. Such a cool story. I'm curious, how did you get to the point where, well, and let me back up a little bit here, because where I'm coming from with this is, I have the opportunity and the privilege to work with business owners and entrepreneurs from all across the world. And one of the most common things that I see that does come up as, that bottleneck is the inability to delegate, or the inability to create those systems. So can you talk a little bit about that? What was the process for you personally in understanding how to delegate? Was that something that just came naturally to you, or was it a trial and error situation that you had to learn?
Yeah, so it's funny. I have kind of a funny story about this. So the early years of my Amazon business, I was doing everything myself. I was working 40 hours a week. I was balancing college, social life, girlfriend, like you name it, and trying to balance all of it. And I meet with an accountant because my dad tells me I should probably pay taxes. So I meet with him, and the first thing he asked me is, "When are you going to hire your first person?" And I said, like, why would I do that? That's money out of my pocket. They're going to steal my ideas. They're not going to do as good a job as me. Like all your classic entrepreneur excuses of why they don't hire people. And the accountant just said, "You're going to learn this lesson on your own," and kind of laughed in my face. Well, my first fourth quarter came around for Amazon, and I just get destroyed. I'm working like 18 hours a day. My grades go down, my social life plummets for 6 weeks through Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I'm just miserable and just working nonstop. And I make it through to January, and I'm thinking, man, I can never let that happen again. I have to start hiring people. And that's when I posted a job on Facebook, and got lucky enough that the first person to respond was Connor, who ended up being my business partner, and made a lot of bad hires after him, and really just started to focus on hiring. To me, hiring is the key to everything. It doesn't matter how good of an entrepreneur you are, how good you are at marketing, how good you are at strategic decisions. If you can't hire, like your business is not going that far. And we kind of realized this early on. So we were really focused on the hiring process. Like, how do we find applicants? What questions do we ask them? How do we make sure that the people we hire not only have the skill, but have the attitude and the communication that we need to work with them? And then afterwards, how do we keep those people around? Because turnover just destroys companies. Like when people leave, that can set you back 6 months. So that we spent years perfecting that process. And when we did it, that's when everything changed, because we were able to grow our Amazon business quickly, but more importantly, build a really good internal team at FreeUp, people who stayed with us all 4 years, who are still with FreeUp to this day. We took $500,000 from the sale and gave it to our team in the Philippines to make sure they were taken care of and made sure their jobs were secure when we sold it. And hiring and finance too are both like the unsexy parts of business that no one wants to talk about, but you got to master them. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's super cool that you were able to give back to, to your team as well in the exit. That's super cool. Yeah, and that's such a good point, because I think that, for many individuals, I know for myself and for many, of the friends of mine that have become entrepreneurs for their own reasons, most of the time that reason is so that they can, have more autonomy, or make a more amount of money than they would be able to in the 9 to 5, or different things like that. But it's very rarely like, hey, I want to become an entrepreneur so that I can hire a team and have a team that I'm going to work with every day, right? So it's something that kind of comes into play as you're building your business that you may not even really be thinking about at the beginning, right? So what would you say for, for entrepreneurs or business owners that have maybe been in the game for a year or two, just starting out and are getting to that point where they're realizing like, man, I can't do this all on my own. What advice would you give to someone at that point, starting out their business?
So my overall, the way I want people to look at it is there's three different levels of people you can hire. You've got followers, doers, and experts. And followers are your virtual assistant. They might have years of experience. Like we don't hire newbies that have never been a VA before, but we're teaching them our process. If I hire a customer service rep, they have to have customer service experience, but I have a way I want customer service done. And I'm not just going to hire someone and say, go find me profitable products, go find me leads. They need a real process to follow. Then you got the doers. And for this, because we live in 2022 and we're filming this, like you could build a Rolodex of doers that you can use on all your businesses. Like we have graphic designers, writers, people that all they do all day is graphic design. I'm not their only client. Sometimes I'll hire them full time, but for the most part, they're project based. And every time I have a graphic design project, I don't want to stop what I'm doing and start interviewing people. I just want to have a Rolodex of reliable people that I can go to. And then you got the experts, the high level consultants, agencies, coaches, stuff like that, who are there because you could spend 6 months learning how to run Facebook ads, but that's probably not a great use of your time. And it's way better to hire someone who's already done it. So the first thing you got to do is figure out where in your business you need these followers, doers, and experts. And you're going to need all three to scale your business. And to me, I always like to start small. Hire someone for 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, build trust, learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot going through the process. And once you master that, then it becomes addicting. Once you have a good experience hiring, then you're like, hey, how can I do more of this? What else can I take off my plate? But you gotta be able to take that leap and get that initial hire to get that going.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's such good advice. That's something that I wish someone would have like put on a post-it note for me when I was first starting out of like, hey, you don't have to hire your first employee full time. It can just be part-time. It can be just a short amount of time, right? 1 hour, 5 hours per week starting out. Test it out. See if you guys work well together and then move on from there. Such great advice. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit here then. So, with your journey, the pandemic hits, you're not traveling the world anymore. and so now you're stuck at home like the rest of the world. How did EcomBalance, how did that come together?
So as we're growing out of school, we start consulting with some different businesses. And one thing that we learned during that time is we hate being consultants and we'll probably never do it again. But the common theme of that was before we could help people make decisions in their business, which I think we're good at, we needed to revamp their monthly bookkeeping process. We needed to get real numbers that we could make decisions on and see what's working and see what's not working. And through that, we kind of had the idea, hey, what if we open our own monthly bookkeeping service, a monthly bookkeeping service that's run by entrepreneurs, not by bookkeepers. We know we're good at hiring. We know we're good at hiring bookkeepers. We know we're good at building good bookkeeping processes. But a lot of times bookkeepers don't speak entrepreneur. They don't put things in a way that the entrepreneur can make decisions on every single month. So that was kind of the idea. And then we approached it from the same way we kind of approach every business. We did a ton of market research. We interviewed 100+ entrepreneurs. We posted those interviews on our blog, so you can kind of see what we found. And we found a major hole in the market. So from there, we need bookkeepers because Connor and I are not bookkeepers. So we hired a controller here in Colorado and spent a good 60 days finding the right fit and made a great hire there and built a team around her. And then we did a beta round. We offered 2 free months of bookkeeping to people in our network to give us feedback and to break everything and help us build processes. And we launched that. And that's really how we got it off the ground. And now we're at the point where we've got about 70 clients at the time of filming this. We started off in the e-commerce space with EcomBalance just because I'm pretty well known in the e-commerce space. But we're about to launch AccountsBalance, which is a monthly bookkeeping service for non-e-commerce businesses. So that's kind of how we got it off the ground.
That's cool. So from your story, there's 2 different directions I want to go with this. First, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I mean, starting a business at this point, now you've got some, experience with starting businesses, kind of have an idea of how that goes. But I want to ask a question with this because I saw in an interview that you did that $5,000 was kind of your magic number to start a business with. What did that look like? And was that the same case for EcomBalance, or was it a bit different? And can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so Free Up, we started with $5,000. The benefit of the Amazon business, which we also started with even less than that, and Free Up, very cash flow positive businesses. When you drop shipping something, you get paid up front, you buy the product after. With Free Up, we get paid by the client, and then we pay the freelancer after. So if you can get clients, it becomes very cash positive very quickly, and that allows you to not put that much money in. With EcomBalance and Accounts Balance, not exactly the same way, although we do get paid by clients up front, especially for catch up and cleanup work. But we wanted to speed up the process a little bit, just because it's funny, every time I start a new company, I'm like, all right, that's the last time I'm doing that, because it's a lot of work. But then I'm addicted to it, and it's what I'm good at and enjoy doing. So I end up doing it again. But with Accounts Balance, we ended up taking like $10,000 or something from outsource school to just hire the initial bookkeepers and get it off the ground. And now it's cash flow positive, where we wouldn't have to put money in. But the point is you don't need to have $500,000 to start a business. And one of the more frustrating entrepreneur situations I got in Florida when I started going to these entrepreneur network events, it was, hey, if you give me $500,000, then I'll start working on this product and build this business. And in my mind, it's like, no, prove you can sell the product. The money will always follow. If you have something that can sell in a real business, you'll always be able to get money for it. And there's so many creative ways to do that. With Outsource School, we sold Outsource School before we even finished filming the course. So we had sales on the books, and we didn't even have a course yet. And we weren't going to screw anyone over. We were going to make sure that they got what they paid for. But you can be very creative and launch businesses with very small amounts of money. You can't launch businesses without any money. We needed a website. We needed software behind it. We needed a team. So it's impossible to do that. But for whatever reason, we've been good at that bootstrapping and running lean businesses. And that's kind of our mentality, is to let's prove this concept before we just dump $100,000 into it.
Yeah, I feel like that's so important. And we see so often as well. I mean, I'm sure for both you and I, but for those that we coach and work with, I feel that analysis paralysis comes into play a lot, right? And I see that pretty often with the students that I work with through Entre Institute, that you're so worried about making it perfect before you start talking to clients, or before you start getting your product out there, or start even getting feedback from the marketplace, and that turns out to be a hindrance to you, because if you get started when you're finally ready, then you're never going to get started, right? So I love your advice there, that and the example that you gave of starting to sell Outsource School before it was even fully completed.
Yeah, and it kind of applies to anything. I was just chatting with someone who has this new deodorant brand he wants to launch. And in my mind, and this is what I told him, and not that I know everything in the world, but it's like, hey, go to different, whatever your community is, maybe it's like gym owners or something, and try to sell 50 of them, offer them half off, tell them it's going to take 2 months to get there. Like, prove that you can sell 50 of these units, because if you spend 2 months and you can only sell 1 unit, like, chances are there's not a market for that. And there's always exceptions to other rules and stuff like that. But that's kind of how I like to approach it.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'll just share really quick. Like, for myself, I started an agency around the same time when the pandemic hit. And when I started my marketing agency, I sold our product to our services to the first 3 clients before I even knew what services I was fully going to be delivering, right? It's more just getting it out there, starting to, present yourself, talking about the business. You can figure out the rest later. It helps too, to light a fire under you, to get motivated and get stuff done.
Right, exactly. The best problem to have in business is too many clients, too many customers, too many people that paid for your stuff up front, and that's where it's easy to figure it out afterwards.
Yep, absolutely. That's awesome. Okay, so the other side of that, I said there's 2 different directions I want to go. The other way that, the other side that I wanted to ask you about is with the accounting, with EcomBalance and Accounts Balance that is releasing tomorrow. You said super exciting. So today recording, we're September 28th of 2022. So by the time this goes live, Accounts Balance is going to be out live to the public. When it comes to accounting, You said, and you made a really good point there that most accountants don't speak entrepreneur. So what would you say are the most common maybe pitfalls or areas that entrepreneurs miss when it comes to accounting?
Yeah. So, and I can only speak for bookkeeping because we don't do
Oh, sorry,
tax,
yes,
but
bookkeeping.
yeah. So, I mean, first of all, entrepreneurs should never be doing their own bookkeeping. I've made this mistake. Other people made this mistake. First of all, it's not a good use of your time. So that's point number one. Like your time is better spent growing your business, sales, marketing, strategic decisions, expansion, all of that. And I did that back with my Amazon business. I wasted so much time just doing books and not focusing on my business. And most of the time, and this is point number two, it just has to get redone anyway by someone who actually knows what they're doing. I remember spending months on books and then I just had to pay someone to clean up my gigantic mess afterwards. It's way faster to just hire someone to do it right from day one. I with my Amazon business, I went from doing it myself to just dumping on my bookkeeper and accountant at the end of each year, but that didn't allow me to make decisions every single month. It allowed me to maybe file my taxes on time. But the point of bookkeeping is to make good monthly decisions. So when we started FreeUp, the best decision that we ever made, one of my best decisions that I made in any business is hiring a bookkeeper from day one. Even before we were profitable, month would end within 10 to 15 days. We would get an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. We had a meeting on our calendar every single month, the same meeting we've been running every month for the past 6 years. And you can grab an agenda for that meeting right on the EcomBalance homepage. And we would go through the report top to bottom together, and we would make decisions based on what the numbers were telling us. We would hire more people. We would invest in services that were selling a lot. Like we would really break that down. And that's what entrepreneurs need to be focused on. You do not need to know how to reconcile something in QuickBooks. You don't even have to open QuickBooks. What you do need to do is have a good monthly bookkeeping process that gets you reports each month. You have a meeting to go through those reports and make decisions on those reports.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say are the most important or the most, I guess, high prioritized metrics that entrepreneurs should be looking at each month?
Yeah, I mean, there's standard ones like you want good margins in your sales. I like to focus on higher margin businesses. But the biggest thing is how you compare. So I learned with one of the only internships I had, you compare this month to last month, and you compare this month to the same month last year, and that's how you should look at it. You should see if your sales are going up. You should see if your margins are going up and down. You should look at expenses. Maybe you're spending money on stuff that you can cut. Maybe you can hire more people. But there's every business has its own KPI. So it's tough to be like, hey, like this is the KPI that's the most important for everything. But it's all about comparing and knowing your numbers. And one of the things that really helped us when we went to sell FreeUp, and we had that initial call with the potential buyers, and they asked us a ton of questions, most of which had to do with finance. We answered those questions because we knew our books very well, because we had that monthly meeting every month for the past 4 years. And then when they got to due diligence and they actually dug into our books, everything that we told them on the phone matched exactly what was in our books. And that built a lot of trust to eventually to sell the business. So the only way you're going to understand your numbers is if you're looking at them every single month. And what you should be focusing on is comparing it to last month and the same month last year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super powerful. And yeah, that's awesome too, that, where you're talking about exiting the business. That's one of the areas that when individuals go to sell or to exit their business or for it to be acquired, that a lot of issues come up when they start looking at the financials, because, there's something that was missed, or that you're maybe not, the company's not being fully transparent on. So that's a really strong point. Would you say, from your experience, in exiting FreeUp and in that transition, would you say that the financial aspect of that was one of the most important areas, or are there other pieces as well that you think are top priority like that?
Yeah, I mean, finance is huge. Very tough to sell a business if you don't have clean books. We work with a lot of brokers at EcomBalance, and I mean, most buyers aren't going to touch a business with bad books. Now, there's definitely other things that like building just trust with the buyer, stuff like that, having reoccurring revenue, having proprietary software, having processes. A lot of people knew me as like the face of FreeUp, but the truth is the actual operations of the business ran without me. I didn't have to be there. We had a really good team. As like the spokesperson, for lack of a better word, I'm pretty replaceable. Someone could come in with a different marketing strategy and do something way different and hopefully way better than me. So you can be like that face, you can control the marketing side, but if the business operations and fulfillment can't run without you, very, very tough to sell that kind of business. So I think that those are just a few things that helped us. And from our side, one of the best advice that I got was to do due diligence on the buyer. Just like they were doing due diligence on us, we want to know everything about them, what businesses they bought in the past, success, failures, how they treat people, what their plans were for free up. Like we wanted to make sure that we were selling it to someone who's going to take care of our clients, take care of our team, grow free up, hopefully, and also just not end up in a lawsuit down the line, because that's super stressful. And who wants to do that? And obviously pay us every dollar that we agreed to as well. So all factors to kind of consider.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, great insight on that. So I'm curious, what's next for, or what does the pathway of succession look like for EcomBalance and for EcomBalance?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're just getting started. I think we're at that peak where we have the team. We love our team. We're finishing up building some bookkeeping processes, and the foundation of our software is there, where clients can sign up and go through a pricing process. We've got some features to build, but for the most part, that's built out. And now it's building up the marketing channels. And I know this is a marketing podcast, but we build the same marketing channels for all of our companies. We go on podcasts, we focus on SEO and putting out content. We build partner programs where we partner with as many people in the space as possible and do a lot of cross promotions, get people in front of our audience, vice versa. We build an affiliate program where you get reoccurring money for anyone that you refer, for both our customers, our partners, and any influencers. And then we do like outbound and just lead generation consistently. And those are kind of the pillars of our marketing that we're hopefully starting to hit the ground running with in EcomBalance and now Accounts Balance and get out there.
That's amazing. Okay, for our listeners, if you didn't catch all of that he just listed off, that Nathan just listed off here, go back and listen to that again, because you seriously, Nathan just gave like a checklist of boom, 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 boom. Here are things to get your business marketing off and running. Such an incredible list. And you're exactly right too. I mean, through all of those different channels that you're talking about, you're building credibility both for your brand, for yourself as the business owner or team that's building the company, and also getting the ideas, the services, the solutions that you guys provide out there to the masses. So yeah, such a phenomenal list. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
All right. So wrapping up with our conversation here, this has been so fun, because I feel like I've learned so much about, in this short amount of time, so much about your journey from college, Amazon, e-commerce to where you're at now. And I do have to say too, this is one piece of your story that is really impressive to me, that you and Connor are still business partners.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, business partners are tough. It's tough to trust people, but it's also tough to just find people that have the same values as you. Like, Connor and I couldn't be more different human beings. I'm kind of like high energy, rah. He's more calm, cool, and collective, working on the back end. I'm more of the face and processes. But we have the same values. We believe in treating people the right way. We stay away from like drama and politics on social media and stuff like that. We believe in our team and our culture and growing businesses with the same strategies. So that part's the same. And the other thing I'll add is it's very easy to be business partners with someone when things are going well and you're making a lot of money. You really find out if you can work with someone when things aren't going well. We drove an Amazon business into the ground. We had situations where we made really bad hires that hurt us. One of our worst business decisions was open up an office and signing a lease on an office that we never should have gotten because we really liked working remote, and that was just a stupid thing to do. And these are bad decisions, a lot of which were my fault, some of which were his fault. Like, everyone just kind of makes mistakes. Being an entrepreneur is a lot of educated guesses, but to be able to overcome that's how you find out if you can really work with someone.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really good advice. Yeah. So wrapping up our conversation here, then I'm curious, what would you say give us like 2 to 3 of the lessons that stand out to you in your experience thus far, whether those are from failures or learning experiences that you've had, or maybe advice that you've received?
Yeah, that consistency that we opened up with is so important. And it's not just posting on social media. When I'm going on podcasts, the way I did it with Free Up is every day I'd wake up and reach out to 5 podcasts, and then I'd follow up with them. I'd be persistent, which is probably my point number 2. But that or I guess just kind of following up is point number 2. But in terms of being consistent, like I'd wake up every day, reach out to 5 podcasts, reach out to 5 blogs, reach out to 5 influencers, reach out to 5 Facebook group owners. Like you can create your own list, but if you do that every single day, you're going to connect with a lot of people and a lot of people in your space. Obviously you want to do it strategically and connect with the podcast that makes sense for your business. But that consistency is key. Connor and I don't launch anything where it's just like, boom, here's this huge thing we've been working on nonstop for a week. It's consistent actions every single day. We've been ramping up our EcomBalance partner directory. We add a few partners every single day. We do content swaps with partners every single week. It's that consistency that you can put into your marketing efforts to get it out there more than just like dumping a lot of money on Facebook ads. You should be looking for that long-term consistency to get out there. And then I'm lacking on a good word, but in terms of like just following up, there are podcasts that I followed up 20 times over 4 years before they let me on. There were clients that I talked to for a year before they signed up with us. Like you gotta, like, don't take things personally. You're going to get rejected. Handle things in a non-aggressive professional approach. You shouldn't harass people, but you can continue to follow up in a respectful way. And some of my best opportunities and best podcasts I've been on, or best influencers that have promoted us, they didn't just say yes on day one. So those are kind of 2 things that we credit to a lot of our success.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you've reiterated really the compound effect, right? That you're not doing everything in one day or in 1 week. It's little things every single day that over time amount to a big success. I think that is absolutely key in building anything of success or of scale even, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
all right. So Nathan, before we finish up our call today, I'm just curious, what are your top, give us top 2 or 3 books or podcast episodes, or whatever media you prefer.
There's a really good podcast with one of our clients called My First Million. I would check that out. It's cool. They just kind of brainstorm business ideas, which is kind of fun.
Oh, cool.
Something that I like. So I recommend checking that out. Tim Ferriss podcast I listen to, Motley Fool, just because I like the stock market and stuff like that. Yeah, I have, in terms of books, let me see. Rich Dad, Poor Dad's a solid one. I know that's generic. I actually got my foster kiddo reading that right now, so it's top of mind. And Tools of Titans, I think, is that big orange book right behind me.
Nice.
That's always a good one as well.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, tell our listeners where they can connect with you. Where can they find EcomBalance and now AccountBalance?
Yeah, Nathan Hirsch on social media. Feel free to connect with me. I'm always down to chat with different entrepreneurs. EcomBalance.com, AccountsBalance.com for monthly bookkeeping. And if you want all my hiring processes, including how to use VAs for all the marketing stuff we talked about in this podcast, check out Outsource School.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for joining me today. This has been super fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Marketing Mastermind podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, follow, rate our show, and share with your friends on social media. You can also join our community by visiting us online at marketingmastermindpodcast.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next episode.